to the party.
Okay, stream is live now, by the way.
Stream is live.
Yeah,
I
like
just
just
got a-
now.
Oh my god.
Seems
I
to
think.
be
Fresh.
quieting down. I just got a bunch of noise on the line as soon as that went live.
Yeah, I got that too. That was weird.
I didn't. That's weird.
Maybe
Feel all
somebody
left out.
is somebody getting a feedback loop, like they're listening to the stream as well as contributing
Nope.
to it.
No.
Seems to have quieted it
Yeah,
down.
it quieted down when I assumed because my volume was originally on from when I was watching, I think, League of Legends or something. And as soon as I hit mute, it quieted down a little bit.
Did anyone catch my stream on Wednesday? It was lagging every now and then. I wasn't sure how bad it
I was working.
Me too.
Yeah, I was not available to watch.
Wait a minute. Why I edited the title. Why does it still say each one on the
Destiny.
Xbox?
Hold on, maybe
It says you're playing Destiny. Did you do it on the dashboard?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a pretty sweet ad for Beyond Earth, but it's not skippable.
I'm frozen on an ad for EA's FIFA.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yep, okay, now I see you.
You see, you shouldn't
Oh.
see me.
And now I need to mute myself. Mark in little tiny screen. Because I got to be able to pay attention to everything else.
Indeed. All right, so are we ready to start recording?
Let's just retweet some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, fire away. Should I count us
Oh
in?
wait, no, I'm not ready because I don't have it open. Oh my god, my computer's gonna have a freaking meltdown. I have so
forgot
many
that
things
we
open
also
right now.
have to record this, right?
Oh, how long have we been
Not
doing
enough to just stream it live. We also have to catalog it.
it?
Raj. And
Again, I maintain that this game is amazing on the Xbox.
which game? Diablo?
Diablo 3.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good on PS4 as well.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it should have been a console game from the get-go. It's so good to do couch co-op in that game.
Couch co-op and just dodging in any direction with just flicking the stick. That
Yeah.
makes so much sense.
Uh-huh.
Plus, it also saves your mouse from having to click to do everything.
Does anyone else have
Yeah,
like
that
a
is kinda
frozen
nice.
ad on their Twitch?
No, I'm just
Nope.
watching the character creation screen.
Okay.
The
Yep.
the archer is slowly undulating.
Yeah, she'll do that.
Yeah, it's kind of laggy.
Okay, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitch. Let's see what the hell's going on.
This is episode 47.
7.
Are you making a new one?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a new.
Are you doing hardcore mode?
Probably not a good idea since half my attention will not be on the game.
Stay a while and listen.
I am ready to start recording when you guys are.
Okay.
So am I.
I am as well.
3, 2, 1. Kablamo! Look at
Kablamo.
that.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right,
Kablamo.
I've got a waveform. We're good to go.
Bada bing,
Life
bada
form.
boom.
Tiny little life form.
So what are you naming it? Let's see this.
I was gonna ask you in the stream for suggestions on a name.
Pollyanna.
Wu Zetian.
Boosted.
Well, I'm gonna keep asking for suggestions. Actually, I don't mind Pollyanna.
I was just joking with that one.
All right,
Well,
fine, then I'm
well,
not gonna
I
use it.
shouldn't eat-
So far, it's Chie then, because Persona.
Persona.
Ay.
That's not how you spell Pollyanna.
Wow, that's how I spell it.
Where did you learn to spell?
Pokemon.
Oh, God. That explains so much.
You caught an A. Wild bee escaped.
All right. Well, while you're thinking up a name, let's get this started.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Press Pass, Press Reset's weekly podcast where we discuss the latest video game news. I'm your host, Sean Knight, and joining me on the panel this week are fellow P2R colleagues, content overlord Mark Lynch,
Hello.
community manager Anton Weganist,
Ahoy, hoy.
and contributing writer Kyle Holt.
Howdy, howdy. Just diving right in today, I guess.
We're really getting into it. That and I have a lot of work to do. So
I see.
So
That's why we're
take
not
as
starting
long
at
as
one.
possible in this recording. Got it.
and
And you just lost all your clothing.
Yeah, I have a naked monk.
yeah, for those of you who are listening to this or will be listening to this as an MP3, we're currently doing this live on Twitch, and Mark is playing Diablo 3. Yeah.
And as
may
soon
he
as you
burn
create
in
your
hell.
character, you lose all the clothing.
All right, so first bit of news. It's been announced that there will be no microtransactions for the PC version of Rise Son of Rome. The Crytek made that announcement recently, as well as, there's some other things for the PC version where they'll be getting 4 DLC packs that were previously released over time for the Xbox One game as well. It's going to support 4K resolution, super sampling, native upscaling, particle quality, yada yada yada. Crytek say it's going to look beautiful and it's going to be the new benchmark of PC graphics, which I highly doubt.
Crytek does that every game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really full of themselves, even though they haven't been able to do that since the original Crisis. So, Mark, is this going to help sell more units on the PC platform, or are the reviews that the console version has received could be maybe a deterrent?
I don't see how this would really help them sell anything, because, yeah, like you said, the reviews of the game were really poor for the Xbox One. And beyond that, like removing an optional feature just seems like unnecessary work. It just seems silly to take that away. I'm guessing that the kind of the mentality behind this was that PC gamers tend to spend more time with their video games than the console gamers, like, on average, because on a more typical basis, as someone who has a gaming PC is a more, I don't like using the term hardcore gamer, but they're more into games than, say, a console owner who might play them more casually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, in light of that, do we know who did more microtransactions, PC or console, in terms of like Mass Effect 3 or something?
I do not know.
Now, I do believe there was a study recently put out that said PC gamers spend a lot more when it comes to microtransactions.
Really?
So, yeah. If
Huh.
I remember correctly, I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but that means I'm surprised that they would take out microtransactions for this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Mark's point still stands in that PC gamers tend to be more invested in the gaming aspect of their machines, because, I mean, if you look at something that may seem unrelated like Netflix, Netflix is more popular on the consoles than it is on the PC, and this is a service that started on the PC. It's based entirely on the internet, so I mean, it sort of stands to reason that people use their consoles for more than just gaming, whereas somebody who owns a gaming PC might do some web browsing, probably related to gaming, probably going to presstoreset.com, and they're playing a lot of games.
I think
right?
like 50% of gaming consoles go to presstoreset.com.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So, Cal, you've played the game, right?
Yeah. I
So-
have to agree with Mark that I'm surprised that they're going through all the effort of taking it out, but I will say that I would be amazed if anyone bought a single pack in that multiplayer. I mean, because they really did try to do the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer thing, where you can earn in-game credits or you can just buy credits and purchase packs that way. But unlike Mass Effect 3, none of the rewards were substantial. They were all stat things, a sash for your torso that boosts your health or something like that. And none of it changed the gameplay at all, or changed your strategy in the game, or anything like that. So it all felt kind of pointless. And in fact, the entire multiplayer felt entirely pointless, because you only ever just used your shield and sword like you did in the campaign mode. So you're like, why don't I just play campaign over and over again if I really want to do this over and over again? So, yeah, kind of weird, but oh well. I don't think they're gonna I don't think either decision would make them or lose them more money.
Right. So, in essence, what would you recommend to PC gamers? Just stay away completely?
If you're interested, go ahead and pick it up. It's not like poison for your computer. Like, I'd wait until it's like maybe $10 or whatever. But I don't know, you can kill an afternoon on it if you really want to.
If you want a new graphics benchmarking software.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to justify like how much computing power your awesome PC has, then yeah, fine, whatever.
Yeah, if you want to be able to slap your tower and say, "Hey guys, check this out, runs Rise,"
I wonder how that game would
and
translate
have
to
any
keyboard and
credibility
mouse
when you
stuff.
say that.
I feel
What
like
was
that would
that,
be a
Guy?
tough one. Like, for a keyboard and mouse, I'm not sure how the controls would work, or if they'd work better in any way.
Well, the Steam version is going to have control support, obviously, as well as the Steam achievements, trading cards, leaderboards, cloud saves, and for those who pre-purchase the game before October 10th when it comes out, they'll get the 25-track orchestral soundtrack, and they can play that on Valve's new Steam music player, which they recently launched for their digital distribution platform. Not only that, but they also launched, did an update to the Steam store, different color scheme. It's more blue than all just solid black. They've changed they've not changed, but they've really updated the search function, so it's easier to look for games out of their library of 3,700 games or something like that.
Sounds less like an update and more like a very necessary thing that should have been there.
Yes, the Steam store has needed a huge overlift or facelift for quite a while. On top of that, they've introduced the curator feature, where if you have a Steam group, you can offer recommendations to your followers, and it'll show up on the Steam store page as well as a recommendation. So it's really good. I mean, Kyle, have you been able to check out any of the updates or even the music player itself?
Actually, no. But
No.
it does look nicer. I will say with the music player, like, okay, MP3 is pretty general. I use iTunes because I'm a stupid person, but I also have an iPod that I'm still using because I don't want to drain my phone battery. But I'm not sure if the iTunes stuff would work because it's all ACC instead of MP3,
Yeah.
and it's all organized into stupid folders that I hate. So it wouldn't be too handy in that sense. But I feel like a lot of people, just do their music through like Spotify or something like that. So I don't know. I'm not sure how well this will carry over, but it's good for games that you don't like the soundtrack for, I guess.
I mean, not everybody likes to listen to music while they game. Anton, I think you're one of those kinds of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm maybe this is a Puritan aspect that I have, but I like to listen to the sounds that the game designers intended me to be listening to, especially when it comes to audio cues, right? I mean, I don't think Sean could imagine playing a high-tension game of Counter-Strike and be, distracted by Kylie Minogue when he should be listening to footsteps of people coming around the corner.
How did you know that's my favorite artist? Wow. But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, personally, I don't really listen to music. There's only a few games I would, like maybe when I'm playing Minecraft, I'll throw on some tunes for that because it really doesn't matter to me. But yeah, so far it's pretty good. Valve is offering the free soundtracks to those who already own their Half-Life games, Portal 2, the free-to-play documentary, and that's for a limited time. I made sure to get those soundtracks. I have yet to listen to them.
Free to play has a soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, good on them.
Well, don't all movies and documentaries have a soundtrack?
I mean, I guess, but I didn't realize that was sought after or anything.
Yeah, there's some good music playing in the background.
Okay.
At least I thought so.
Apparently, the only time Chrono Time listens to music is during the load up for like Infinite Crisis or probably other MOBAs as well. That's probably a good time for it.
During
Indeed.
the elevator scenes of Mass Effect 1.
They finally released the Destiny soundtrack on iTunes, and I bought it immediately.
I'm pretty sure I have a bunch of soundtracks for games that I haven't installed on my computer. I just gotta go through them and see what I have, and then finally add them. But from what I've seen and played with the new music player, it's very basic.
See,
but
what I
it
do
works.
on iTunes is I make these playlists based off of like mood and like tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an in-command playlist that I play like during certain times, and it's got lots of music. It's like my baby of a playlist. Like I really have to. It's like growing a bonsai tree. You know, I have to like trim properly and like add new things, but they have to be exactly right. They have to be the right tone. Like not epic. I've eliminated epic from it. Like it can be epic sounding, but it has to be mostly something that you can sit in a chair while overseeing things. I'm very particular about that soundtrack, or about that playlist.
So here's a question. The Steam machines are still around the corner. They're supposed to come out in early 2015, and Valve finally sticks to their guns this time around. These updates have been needed for a while. The Steam Music Player is something that was unexpected, but is a nice addition. Is this all just Valve gearing up for the eventual release of the Steam machines?
I guess. I hadn't really thought of it that way, to be honest.
The shadow of Diablo still hangs over this place.
I mean, like, is that something that would carry over to the Steam machines? Well, I mean, like, could you like use the Steam machines to get music off of your computer, like just on the network, or?
Probably, I would assume so.
I mean, I generally don't make that assumption just because I've played consoles before.
Well, I figure if they can be used in big picture mode, they'll be available on Steam OS.
Okay. I don't know. We'll have to see if that's a feature they include. Because otherwise that's a lot of transferring music over to a console. Which apparently people have done in the past with the Xbox, which blows my mind.
Oh, you mean the original Xbox? Yeah, I did that. That was not worth the effort.
Yeah, that sounded like a real pain, and I think I did that with like one CD. Cooley Cooley soundtrack.
It was a tedious process, and there was really only a couple of games that it was worth doing for.
Yeah.
I think there was a party game. I can't remember what it was called. It was like Mario Party, but the Xbox version of it.
Oh, was it Fusion Frenzy?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Fusion
Damn.
Frenzy.
Got the right guy here.
Yeah. I remember that game.
All right, we'll move on to our next bit, and that is, well, unfortunately, Double Fine has jettisoned Space-Based DF9. It's a sci-fi simulator, I guess, where you run your own starbase, you collect all the necessary parts you want, or salvage parts from derelict ships, things like that. It was an very interesting early access game, but unfortunately, according to Tim Schafer, it just wasn't getting the money it needed to continue production. And this isn't the first time this has happened to Double Fine. I mean, there was Broken Age, where they got, what, $4 million in Kickstarter backing when they originally asked for like $100,000 or $400,000. And yet they had to cancel that because they ran out of money. So, Anton, is Double Fine having a problem with handling their money? I mean, how is this even possible if you get $4 million yet still can't do it, and now this early access game has completely failed?
I'm kind of getting tired of developers and publishers looking to have their incomplete projects funded by fans. I mean, when Kickstarter first started taking on gaming projects, it seemed like an interesting way to sort of fund game companies that, you know, like, hey, I really want these guys to make this game. I like the direction they're going for, or, you know, I like the art style, or, hey, I remember the game way back in the 90s. They're making a sequel. I really want to see it come to fruition, so I'm going to toss them $20. But it seems now that it has become a big crutch. I mean, if you look at Double Fine, for example, I mean, if they're getting all of this money and they still have to cancel the project, it means that they were probably counting on a lot more money coming in from Steam Early Access than what they actually saw. So if your business model now starts to, have this sort of void, and you say, okay, we need $1 million to make this game. From our investors, we got 400,000. So that means we need $600,000 from Kickstarter and or, Steam Early Access. And they expect people to invest on this based on, like alpha releases or trailers or, the typical Kickstarter video where they have the lead developer sort of talking into the camera and maybe showing some art stills. And it's just because this has become almost the sort of go-to method for a lot of developers in the last last year and a half. It's starting to get more and more tired and crowded. There's so many developers, pleading with you like, we really want to make this game, we're really passionate, blah, blah, blah. And then we've got, over the last year or so as well, we've got a lot of stories of people getting burned because the project just gets canceled, or the project delivers a product that is way below the standard that they sort of hinted at or promised in their pitch. And so I find myself very picky now. I have all but stopped pre-buying or kickstarting games entirely, just because I'm starting to come to the point where it's just like, show me the end product. Stop showing me trailers. Stop showing me art of, an unfinished game. I'll pay the $20 when the game comes out. Thank you very much.
I mean, I'm not one to advocate voodoo economics most of the time, but wouldn't you say that this is something that like the market itself would kind of fix eventually? I mean, aren't you yourself an example of how this problem's going to fix itself?
Well, I mean, I don't think that. If you've got a great idea, and you've got a solid art team behind it, and maybe you just can't get picked up by a publisher. The thing is that publishers are, by and large, staffed by people who understand the game industry. So if you're running around trying to get your game presentable to publishers, they expect a minimum standard. Whereas Kickstarter, they have a very kind of loose minimum standard. They say like, okay, you need to have. You can't show anything in your video that is, if it's hardware, it has to be a working model. You can't just show concept art of, a game console or a, remote control helicopter that it doesn't actually fly yet. You need to, they have all these sort of minimum standards, and it's much lower than what, say, a professional publisher would expect from a developer. And so I think that means that developers can go to Kickstarter with a sort of a half-cocked idea, and they'll sort of make up for their shortfall in just raw funding. And I don't know if that's a good way to encourage developers to do business.
Okay. Well, I mean, sorry. I have a half-formed thought that I'm throwing together. So now the question is that the point of Kickstarter, that people who normally wouldn't have access to it would be able to do something with it? And
well, yeah, I mean that's on paper or in theory what the thing or what Kickstarter was supposed to do. But then why do you have companies like Penny Arcade and Double Fine going there?
Yeah.
I mean, these are companies that have millions of dollars. I mean, if you just say, okay, we need Double Fine, we need you to make a sequel to Psychonauts. They're not going to be like, sure, let's just dip into the coffers. Here's $4 million, ready to go. We just haven't been spending it on anything. I mean, obviously, they do need to have investors. They do need to have sort of press momentum to get people talking and buzzing about their games. But you would be hard-pressed to convince somebody that Double Fine is, like a small indie developer with a team of, 4 or less that are really passionate about making one specific game. They've got their fingers in so many pies at this point that going to Kickstarter is kind of like if Walmart was to tell you that they really needed money because they want to dig wells in Africa for villages. You'd be like, can't you fund that yourself? It just seems like Kickstarter has grown into something other than what it was originally proposed to the gaming community to do.
So let's go back to the topic of early access, which is what Space Base DF9 was, taking that route of instead of Kickstarter. Tim Schafer believed that the reason why it didn't do so well is because of lack of communication from the developer themselves to the audience. However, Mark, I'm of a different opinion in the fact that the price tag for this game, for early access of this game, was $25. Could that have been one of the main reasons why the game itself didn't really get as much funding as Double Fine had hoped?
Absolutely. $25 is a huge price tag for an early access game, at least in my opinion. When I'm looking at, either backing a game on Kickstarter or going into an early access subscription, almost always the maximum I'll ever put into it is $15 because I'm not getting a finished product. So for them to put that $25 price tag on there, I mean that's the price of a mid-tier game for most games on Steam, right? That's a lot to invest all at once in a game that might not turn out to be what you want it to be in the first place. The only time I've ever gone over $15 is when the game looks amazing already, and what the team is promising sounds feasible, I guess would be the way to put it. Like, it sounds like they could deliver it. I think I've only done that like once or twice, and I can't even think of the game, but it is a game that I've enjoyed afterwards too. So yeah, I mean, $25 for an early access game seems like a lot of money, and I could see a lot of people just saying, well, it looks alright, but I don't want to pay $25 for an unfinished game, so I'll just come back to it when it's finished, and then I'll see if I want to pay for it then.
And that's not even the most expensive price tag I've seen for early access. I mean, there's one game that was, what, $60, $70, or even $80?
I can't remember. Kerbal Space Program was really expensive. I think it was $50 or something like that when it was in alpha or when it was in the early access. And I just took one look at it and I was like, I don't care. I'm not even watching any more trailers until I see why I should spend. Why am I spending $50 for a game that's not even complete?
And that's the thing. They're charging full retail price for an incomplete product. And it's like, well, we're already getting screwed by EA, who can't put out a finished product and still demand a full price. Why would we pay for something that we already know is incomplete?
I think it was Planetary Annihilation that was like $70 or whatever.
Planetary Annihilation, thank you.
And that ended up being awful, apparently, judging purely from reviews that I haven't played the game.
Well, they've taken it a step further in that the developers have released a retail version of it, if I remember correctly, and it's still not complete.
Oof.
Oh, boy.
So they're just completely out of
senseless, but they
touch with reality, in my opinion.
Well, and that's a game that's been in development now for, I mean, when they came to Kickstarter, they had already been working on it for a year, they said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking like a 2 or 3 year development time, and it's still not complete, but it's on store shelves. Question mark? I don't that doesn't make sense.
Well, Chrono Time in the Twitch chat says early access games should be like half price, but my question is half price of what price? We're talking about $50, $25. I mean, early access I think would be $10 to $15 would be the optimum price you ask for.
I was about to make a comment about how I just prefer to play games once they're finished, but then I realized I played the Destiny beta, so I probably shouldn't say anything.
Yeah, don't.
But I mean, you could argue that at that point it was pretty much finished anyways.
Yeah.
They were just doing some polishing on the
Network testing.
I mean, that was essentially beta testing for the most part.
Uh-huh.
Which is what all these early access games are. You're paying to be an alpha or beta tester now.
Well, and imagine if something like Project Rainfall, which was, so if you're unfamiliar with it, there was a bunch of games, there were JRPGs that were released on the Wii in Japan. And there was this group, this interest group, that decided we want to see these games in North America. So they took it upon themselves to sort of develop trailers and promotional packaging, and they went around to North American-based developers themselves and said, hey, we really want you to bring not Lost Odyssey, The Last Story, for example, or Xenoblade Chronicles. We want you guys to bring these games to North America. They funded this entirely by themselves with the help of fans, right? But they had to bring people to their own website. If Operation Rainfall had existed or Kickstarter had existed, that would have been a massive outlet for them to just promote their cause by themselves. And Operation Rainfall ended up being successful anyways, but it just goes to show that there are things that are out there and technically complete. They just need to kind of like a localization process to go through, or they need a publisher with the time of day to give to, you know, a presentation. And Nintendo scrapped the idea themselves, and so these fans sort of they circumvented Nintendo and got the games. You know, they got 3 games released independently of Nintendo based on nothing but fan enthusiasm. And that's a lot to say. And, I mean, these are games that people ended up paying full price for anyways, but they threw their money towards the promotion. They knew that they weren't going to get the game, even just, you know, if they gave Operation Rainfall $20. It's not like they were going to get a discount on the games in the future. They were just promoting the idea of bring these to North America. And so there's a lot of things on Kickstarter that can be done that are sort of less tangible, but I think when it comes to gaming, it's, you know, I've become a lot more jaded, for example.
Thanks a lot, developers. Thanks a lot. So we'll move on to the next bit of news, and that's the first professional esports arena is being built in the U.S. About time, too, considering the popularity, you know, that esports has in Eastern countries. Major League Gaming is opening the doors to its MLG.TV arena sometime late October, and it's going to be built, and it's going to be located in Columbus, Ohio. Ohio. Yeah. So, before we just go any further, I want to ask Anton, why Columbus, Ohio?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, when I experience big esports events, I usually go through Twitch or, you know, some comparable local stream. You know, if somebody has decided that they're going to do their own, like the International. I watched most of it native in Valve's Steam client within Dota 2. But doesn't mean that, you know, there wasn't, say, a large Twitch following of it. Same with League of Legends LCS. I watch mostly from Twitch. So it doesn't really matter to me where in the world it is physically. I'm probably going to opt for the digital experience anyway, because aside from getting, you know, a t-shirt fired at you from a cannon, I can't see what physically being in the building provides that is better than, you know, just having the live commentary that you can actually hear and the sort of active camera that's panning around. Because as I understand it, when you're in the venue, you're often just watching, you're watching the sort of the stream footage on this big projection screen, and then you can hear the audio, the loudspeaker system is just playing what the commentators are saying. So you're getting the same experience as the digital. It's just kind of like the hubbub of the crowd, which, you know, in some ways adds energy to the scene, because, you know, when there's a big play, you'll hear the roar of the crowd, like, yeah! But, you know, do you want that, or do you want to sit at home listening to, you know, your own music, and then, or do you want to just focus intently on the game itself and not have the distraction of other people enjoying the experience too?
Well, you haven't seen the cheerleaders yet.
Well, from my account,
cheerleaders.
in my account, I was at PAX and I went to a couple of the LCS matches. It does add value to the experience when you're actually there at the match and in the crowd that's live. I guess I would compare it similarly to, going to a hockey game instead of watching it at home on TV or on a
You
stream.
would compare it to going to a hockey game.
Of course I would. I'm Canadian, and that's the only sport that I watch.
So Mark, then, what do you think about an esports arena finally being built in the U.S.?
Um, kind of mixed feelings because it's cool that they're actually having a dedicated esports arena. Like, I think that's awesome, and maybe now you'll start seeing more legitimized. I don't know if that's a word, legitimized um, uh, tournaments, playoffs, that kind of stuff for not just for League of Legends, Dota 2, but for other emerging esport titles. I think the article mentioned Call of Duty Ghosts as one of the inaugural tournaments at this new esports arena, which I thought was weird because,
That's a laugh.
yeah. And the other thing is, I'm not really sure what the capacity for this esports arena is going to be because last year the League of Legends Worlds filled up the Staples Center. That's like 15,000, 18,000 seats or more. So anything that's being built, I would assume, would have to take into account that kind of capacity, but I don't think it's actually going to reach that level. So I see this new esports arena as more of a something for the non-playoff matches, I guess I would say, the ones with less hype behind them. So I don't know. I think it's really cool that esports continues to grow like this and is becoming more and more legitimate in the eyes of North American gamers.
When we return from our horrific
Because I know Korea already puts a lot of stock in their esports scene.
with rage,
And
spitting
China.
curses upon
And
us
China.
as traitors.
And China.
With great sorrow.
As for Chrono Time, corporate name for this esports stadium? Easy. Amazon Stadium.
No, it's
That was-
actually, from what I gather, it's MLG.TV Arena.
Really? That surprises me,
That's
considering it's all going to be
very-
streamed on Amazon, and Amazon has a lot to gain from this.
Well, I would think that's just the temporary name, right?
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
charge.
If somebody was to offer them, hey, we'll give you $3 million if we can put our own name on it, they'd be like, sounds
Yes,
a
we
lot
will.
better than keeping it as MLG Stadium or whatever MLG.TV Stadium.
And as we're going back to Columbus, Ohio, I'll tell you exactly why it's happening in Columbus, Ohio, because both esports and Columbus, Ohio are desperate. Esports is still starting. I mean, it's proven to be successful, but it is still technically starting. So they want to build a stadium, and they'll build it wherever they can. Columbus really wants people to actually know about Columbus. I cannot
Ouch.
name a single thing about Columbus right now, except that it's in Ohio.
They have a hockey team, Columbus Blue
Shots
Jackets.
fired. So the reason that MLG is doing this, setting it out in Columbus, Ohio, is that according to them, there's 62 colleges in the Columbus region, hundreds of thousands of university and high school students in the 11 county area, and they make a good point that it is a pretty good in close proximity to the audience on the East Coast, which is a very good thing to have considering the population on the East Coast, and it's better than the West Coast.
And I'm sure it has wonderful summers, too. You should totally visit.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves and how their own tournaments will evolve to accommodate the new arena. Will they loan it out to other organizations to take advantage of? I am curious about how many people will be able to be seated in there. It's a 14,000 square foot arena, but they're still setting it up, so I don't know how many people will be able to hold when it's all done.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of MLG, I often think of like Call of Duty tournaments. I think of like to a lesser extent some of the Steam or the Source Engine games like Counter-Strike and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think of the big ticket games that have been really pushing esports forward a lot. I don't think of Dota 2. I don't think of League of Legends. I don't think maybe yeah, okay, StarCraft. StarCraft. MLG covers StarCraft, or at least they did. And so, but I mean, it still stands. The big question mark is if you're a big fan of Call of Duty and you live in Boston, are you going to drive to Columbus to watch the game live? And if it's not, especially as it's been said before, if it's not, like the season finale, if it's like a mid-season game, and it's two teams that you enjoy watching, but really the stakes are fairly low. It's kind of like they're just getting stats to push them into the end of season championship, but it's not like if they win or lose, it's not like they're going home with a title, or if they're losing stats that will crush them in the later in the later game, or if they're not going home with prize money. It's just sort of like a whatever game, a regular season game.
Well, think of it this way: hundreds of thousands of Canadians turn out for hockey every year, so it can't be that far behind.
Yeah. I think you might be underestimating the power of fanaticism too. There are a lot of people out there that are just fanatics for esports and the teams that play them. I mean, like, imagine if TSM was playing a game near you. Well, not you specifically, but think about those people who are always going to the matches and chanting TSM, TSM. You are going to have that interest, but I kind of get what you say. Like, just having the one arena isn't going to be enough. They're going to have to start having them pop up, all over North America for them to be worth it. So, like, there could be a a circuit of games, or a tour, if you will, where it starts out on the East Coast and travels around to the West Coast and back again. So people don't have to travel 1,000 miles to just to watch a game happen.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of league of legendary players or something,
I think you're onto something.
Some of the big factors that'll determine the success will be the prize purse. How much money is going to be available to those who win and who participate in their events. And I think with Dota 2 and Counter-Strike Global Operations, they'll be able to, really increase that overall prize package the same way that Valve has been able to do by either putting out their own version of a compendium or selling digital items that'll put some money into the prize pool itself. But we'll have to wait and see what they do. And while MLG is in the process of building, Blizzard is demolishing the hopes and dreams of World of Warcraft players everywhere because it has canceled Titan after 7 years of development. Their main reason for this was that it just wasn't fun, it wasn't working well, and it isn't the first time that Blizzard has spent a lot of time and resources on a game only to just cancel it. There was StarCraft Ghost, which was a first-person shooter based in the StarCraft universe.
Was it first person or third person?
I think it was first person.
Everything I always thought was third person, so I assumed, oh well.
Ew, I would never have played it in third person then.
It's because you're a PC gamer.
So, Anton, the cancellation of an MMO that's been in 7 years in development, good decision, bad decision?
I think the project kind of just got away from them. But it does sound like it was perhaps a business decision as opposed to... I mean, if the game's not fun, is it too much to say, like, okay, we've been developing this for 7 years, maybe we can tinker with the game mechanics to make it fun, rather than just scrap the project entirely. I think we have no way of knowing this, of course. I think what actually happened was they realized that, the project was coming close to a point where they were going to have to announce more about it. And it was hinted a few times that it was not going to be subscription-based. And so if Blizzard was going to release a game that was not subscription based, it would fracture their own community and profits, right? They would have all these players that are playing WoW and paying the monthly fee,
Tell me what you know
and
before
then they
it's
would have
done.
this shiny new game that comes out, and it's based entirely on microtrans. That would, sort of sweep the legs out from under Blizzard's own profit margin, because this is the game that has carried them through all like the last decade. So they would be sort of shooting themselves in the foot by limiting the life expectancy of their sort of top tier project. And it sounds like maybe they looked ahead and figured maybe it's not time to release Project Titan just yet. And because of the not fun factor, or like they couldn't really get things to jive together, they decided maybe it's better to revisit this at a later time when WoW is actually starting to noticeably decline, and we need a solution.
Well, one could argue that there's already been a noticeable decline from, what was it, 12 million was the max to under 8 million.
Well, yeah,
I'd
but they
say
kind of made
that's-
up for that, like with, say, StarCraft 2 and Diablo 3, which have both been released relatively recently compared to, say, I guess WoW. But I don't think they need any fresh new titles right now. I mean, they just released Diablo 3 on the consoles, and that's actually taking off rather well.
Yeah, and I think 8 million subscriptions is still a huge profit for them month to month. So I wouldn't call that I wouldn't call
Many
that
games
decline
kill
at the
for
moment.
that kind of traffic.
We haven't
Yeah,
seen major layoffs there yet anytime soon.
no.
Well, it's funny because we've still got MMOs being developed that go with the subscription route. Elder Scrolls Online being the latest. Exactly, and that's the responses that these games have been getting. Nobody really cares, or they've been cookie cutter games of World of Warcraft, and the MMO genre is still evolving. We got some MMOs on the horizon that look pretty promising. I think EverQuest Next is what the title.
It is regrettable, but it must be
I
done.
think is what it's being called. I
I
can't
think
remember.
that's it. Yeah, EverQuest Next.
Where it's going to feature a lot more kind of like a Minecraft style type of gameplay where you can build things, shape the world to what you want it to look like. Archage just came out recently, which is an alright game, and it pushes the genre in the direction I think it needs to go, with a more sandbox type of gameplay. But Mark, the MMO genre stuff has been evolving. How much did this affect Blizzard's decision to cancel Titan?
I think it definitely did contribute, but I'm still more in the mind of what Anton was saying. It's like how most of this would be Blizzard is kind of competing with itself in developing Project Titan. They don't need to develop that second title, and I mean, you can just imagine the meetings they'd have about the game, where they'd be saying, okay, so we have this second MMO. How do we make it so vastly different from WoW and still keep it as a super successful title and still maintain our own player base in our already super successful MMO? Like, there's a lot of questions there that just don't really have a proper answer when it comes to maintaining a game. Which is probably why you saw it in development for so long, and why it eventually was canceled. And on top of that, yeah, like the evolving MMO market, how do you keep up with that when it's not, MMOs aren't the hot new item anymore. Like, they're, as we've seen with ESO, with SWTOR, they're all on the decline, and no one's interested enough to kind of keep up with what's going on. And they'd rather turn their attention to something new, like MOBAs. Everyone's coming out with their own MOBA now, and
Oh, yeah.
well, I admit, I wish they weren't. That is where the industry is headed right now for online play. You're going to see more competitive MOBAs coming out. In the MMO, there's not enough room for a lot of them, so you want to have a few key MMOs, and typically you're not going to see many MOBAs have much success either. I don't think it's still going to maintain at the Dota 2 and League of Legends as the MOBAs to watch for. But yeah, I mean they have their work cut out for them in any market they're going into. MMOs, it's a huge uphill battle. MOBAs, still an uphill battle, but not as steep. I guess that's where I'd leave it right now.
So, how long will it take for World of Warcraft to finally die? Any guesses?
Nuclear winter.
When they try to release it in China.
They already released
No,
it
that's right.
a while back.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's going to keep it going for a while. But I think World of Warcraft players are looking for another game to finally get them away from it. You got it. So they got to be tired of playing it. Jeez, I was tired of playing it after 2 years. Bloody hell. All right, so Shadow of Mordor is a game based on the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit universe by Tolkien. And that's coming out on September 30th. And it seems to be getting some great reviews. Its Metacritic score for the PlayStation 4 version is at an 84. Joystick gave it 100, which I thought was very interesting. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, Destructoid gave it a 60. Now, I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and I'm a bit reluctant about this game, even though because I'm a purist. I love the Tolkien world, and I don't see why they need to make this game that's set between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings around this fictional character.
Well, I feel like that's one of its strengths. I feel like that means they can like take the story in directions that aren't like bound by those stories.
See, my whole thing is that I wanted it to be contained within the stories themselves because there's just so much there. And the fact that the character's named Talion, I think.
Sure. Probably.
You know, there's these kinds of runes for abilities and things like that. Stuff that, you know, you don't really see in the Tolkien universe that I find rather off-putting.
Yeah, but you also have to make it a game. I mean.
Yeah, but there's been plenty of pretty good or pretty decent Lord of the Rings games.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just thrilled to see something new in the Lord of the Rings universe. And to be honest, like, this game had caught my eye when I read like some of the stuff about it, like when there was previews and such, and people were talking about it after like, I don't know, possibly E3 or something. I don't even remember. And like, it had all these neat little ideas that, and like every one of them, I looked at, I was like, man, that is a cool idea that will never pan out. And like they have this nemesis system where apparently like, you know, if you kill an orc, you might not actually kill him and he'll come back later with an eye patch or something and be like, you took out my eye, I'm going to stab you now because of eye. And you know, like the enemy orcs will like develop their own characters based around what you've done and such like that, or like whether or not you run away from a fight, you know, and you have to take out their power structures and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is super ambitious, and I give you guys thumbs up for trying. And then the game reviews came out, and I'm like, they did it? It worked?
Yeah, a lot of the positive the reviews focus on the gameplay itself. Really no mention about Tolkien lore or how well it, you know, stays true to what we know about the Tolkien universe. Anton, what do you think about Shadow of Mordor? Have you been keeping up with it, and are you interested in it?
After E3, there was a lot of games that I was interested in, and Shadow of Mordor ended up being one of those ones that I sort of took down off of my high priority list, just because I knew that it was going to be coming out in a high traffic or high release area or zone of the year, and so I just had to prioritize other games. So I haven't really kept up with it. When I first thought it looked kind of like a God of War type game based in the Lord of the Rings universe, and so I mean I could understand the concepts. Kind of like Kyle, where it's like, wow, that sounds like a really good idea. I'll believe it when I see it. And I think now it's just coming. it's sort of jumping ahead of the game in that it's sort of the high, the oversaturated time of year when it's sort of like late October, mid-November, when everybody and their grandmother is releasing their AAA game for the pre-holiday season. They're kind of getting in ahead of their competition, but at the same time, there's still other games that personally I'm more invested in. Like I would name Alien Isolation as a game that I would much rather play before Shadow of Mordor. So it's kind of like, I don't care how cool or how good the game is, it's going to be a future purchase. It's not going to be a day one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, frankly, at this point, I think the most intriguing thing about it for me is that it's being, unlike everything else this year, it's being hyped, I guess not after the release, but after people have played it, instead of before.
Yeah, it does have that advantage of people who have played the game are the ones hyping it, rather than the publishers saying, like, this is going to be the new benchmark of PC gaming technology.
Or people have played Diablo, right?
Well, look at...
yeah. No, I was just saying that, the praise for the game is coming from people who you think or you would expect to have no stake in the success of the game at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, a game reviewer, if they give it a bad review, it's because they didn't like the game. If they gave it a good review, it's because they did like the game. But at the ultimate end of the day, they don't really care if you personally buy the game. Mm-hmm. They like that, you read their material. Whether you agree or disagree with them is immaterial to their end result of, generating traffic for their own website or delivering their opinion as efficiently as possible. They really don't have any stake in whether, Shadow of Mordor specifically, if it's the number one hit of the whole holiday season, they don't really care. Their opinion stands on its own, and they delivered what they thought was an objective or as close to objective review as they could get.
Oh, we saw the hype train that was built around Destiny prior to news and its official launch by a lot of news outlets. People seemed to enjoy playing the game, but when the reviews came out, all of a sudden it was like, wait, why is this so different than what you guys were saying prior to these reviews? In the case of Shadow of Mordor, now there's been really no hype leading up to it, yet it's getting these great reviews. So how are we going to see this perform sales-wise? Will it do great?
Well, I'm going to do my part and pick it up, so hopefully other people do that and encourage this kind of thing.
And with you, we want you to buy the game.
Yes. Make people play... Well, okay, I probably shouldn't say anything until I actually play it, but people should buy good games.
Yes. And this, but you might want to, I mean, I sincerely hope that we'll just put the asterisk. If Shadow of Mordor is as good as everyone is saying it is, I really hope that it doesn't suffer from the sort of Prince of Persia thing that happened, this is long ago at this point, but the first Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time game, it came out at just a really inopportune time. Same thing happened with Beyond Good and Evil. It just came out at a really oversaturated time of year. I think there was one of the Splinter Cell games came out at the same time, or there was a bunch of other AAA titles that were coming out, and it just sort of didn't get any coverage, or it didn't get it was critically acclaimed, but the follow-up from the gaming community wasn't there because they were too busy buying Splinter Cell, when Beyond Good and Evil was an equally good, if not better, game for certain people's tastes, but because there was this big giant sign of Sam Fisher, and then there was this title from Ubisoft that nobody had heard of, and it was a new IP that was unproven. People didn't buy it, and that just sort of, it really hurt that game in the long run, because there still has yet to be a sequel to Beyond Good and Evil, as an example, released. Even though I personally love the game, all the critics love the game, but nobody bought it.
Though, curiously enough, Shadow of Mordor is in a very, very unique position this year in being the only game that pushed up their release date instead of pushing it back.
Yes, and I
That is
think that
weird.
might have been why, is they
Yeah.
wanted to avoid, while everyone is screaming like Call of Duty, they're like Shadow of Mordor. They don't want to be.
I mean, even if one of those games is ends up being overhyped, or bad or anything, that news alone would overshadow, Shadow of Mordor. That's gonna be tough. Overshadow Shadow of Mordor's
It would be pushed into the
supposed goodness.
But yeah, I mean, there was Destiny, which was the big thing so far this year. There's also Dragon Age Inquisition, Civilization Beyond Earth, another Call of Duty, of course.
I honestly don't think of Civilization Beyond Earth as competing with any of these.
No, but that's just another game that people spend money on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got a limited budget, you got to prioritize.
Yeah.
What to buy. Is Shadow of Mordor going to be at the top of everyone's priorities in buying a game?
I think if you wanted to break it down as to let's say you played only action RPGs or you played only sort of RPG-esque games, that means you don't care about Call of Duty, you don't care about Alien Isolation. So really, they pushed their release date forward to get themselves a larger window between them and, say, The Witcher 3 and
Dragon Age.
Inquisition.
Yeah.
Those are their two major competitors, and they're releasing pretty much right next to each other. So if they can distance themselves from theirs, they're like, hey, you know what? We love that you love RPGs and sort of fantasy settings. Play our game first. If you love it, great. We're happy to make a sequel, 2 years from now. But for the love of God, please play it before you play Witcher 3 or Dragon Age. We released it specifically, 3 months in advance so that you could play it without the noise of the other games sort of getting in your way.
Right. All right, so I think that's going to be it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in to episode 47, especially everyone on Twitch. Thank you for participating. For those of you who like our show, feel free to leave us a comment or rate us on iTunes. Remember, Press Pass is an extension of PressReset.com, where you can read up on all the latest reviews and editorials. Now, anyone wishing to follow us individually on Twitter can do so. Anton is at Fire60, and that's 60 spelled out. Kyle is at Keilhal, which is Keilhal, and you can also follow Mark Lynch at Mark on P2R, and that's Mark with a C, not a K. And I think somebody wanted you to add them, Mark.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the warning out there. I often don't play Diablo 3. It's just this rare occasion where we were looking for something to play, and it's like, hey, check out Diablo 3.
Yeah, if you really want to play with Mark, you got to play League of Legends.
It's true. But
that's his bread and butter.
I will add the person. So could someone read it to me for Ludicrous? What's the
number? Hashtag 2453.
2453. Oops. That's
and that will just be permanently on the podcast now.
Yeah.
Well,
he's looking for friends. So.
Yeah. At Press Reset. You can follow me at Sean D. Knight. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. Remember, we're doing Press Pass Live on Twitch every Sunday around 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Nope. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, Pacific time is noon.
Yeah, that would be noon. Long day, very long day.
Yeah, I can tell.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out. Alrighty, that was good fun. I'm not gonna lie, I like the idea of playing games that we actually know for the sake of having the sixth sense, or just like having the instincts for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually do things while you're playing them.
Yeah. I was also thinking of doing Game Dev Tycoon or Prison Architect or something, because that's something you can set something up and then it just goes.
I mean, Civ is perfect for me. The first 500 turns or so, I'm not even actually thinking. If A, then B. All right. Oh, I should probably export this and
Oh yeah,
everything.
I'm gonna stop the stream now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you
Yeah.
later.
Take care.